The first round is completely underway right now. We got tons of surprises and some things we knew would happen. You can already say goodbye to the Washington Capitals. They're out of there. New York moves on to the second round, first team to do so in a clean sweep of the Capitals, and where we saw Obi not score a single playoff point for the first time. All this and more today on The Crease. Welcome into The Crease. Before we get into all that great hockey playoff action from the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs, we're going to talk about sponsorship. And one of our sponsors is right here. That's Dubby. And when I need a good, clean energy drink, that's where I go. None of that extra sugar, none of that multidextrin shit. It's pure coffee bean extract, 150 milligrams of caffeine. But they don't just have caffeine products, people. They have shaker bottles. They have gym clothes. They have gym bags. They have apparel. They have stickers. You see this one right here. And they have much, much more, as well as hydration products. So go to w.gg, use the code THEHOUSECALL, all caps, THEHOUSECALL. It'll be in the description of this video to get yourself that clean energy with no jitter and all the mental focus that you need to stay focused at anything you're doing. So, Ian, we're going to start out west, which is probably the best thing we could possibly do right now, because your Dallas Stars have been in a dogfight with a team that we knew was going to be super, super tough, especially if they were healthy. And it turns out Mark Stone is that guy. Is
healthy.
And has been healthy. And he played in the first game and was a difference maker. And they did a clean sweep of Dallas at home and then go to Vegas where they lose in overtime. Dallas squeaks one out. Can they do it again? Or is the writing on the wall for a Dallas Stars team that was actually pretty damn good all year and just has to get an unfavorable matchup?
I think they have to win tonight. The pressure's on them. They have to take two in Vegas and get home ice advantage back, because if they don't, they're toast. We know what this Vegas team is capable of. Watching this series, the Stars have played like the better team. The difference is Vegas is the more opportunistic team. Vegas is playing a very strong defensive structure, and they're getting good timely goaltending from Logan Thompson. I believe in Game 3, the Stars outshot the Knights 16-4 in shots on goal, and that game still went to overtime. So for Dallas, one weakness I noticed with Logan Thompson, you have to shoot high on him. You have to, for any Dallas shooter to be effective, they have to go anywhere from between the face-off lines, between the circles, or just a little bit below that, in a high danger zone when they get those chances, and they have to shoot mid-blocker to high corner in the net. That's where Logan Thompson's vulnerable. I've noticed too many times they've tried to shoot low, shoot 5-hole, and get cute with it, and it doesn't work. Most of the time when Vegas scores a goal, they're shooting high on Ottinger. That seems to be where both goalies struggle to stop pucks. Vegas has had a little bit more open ice when they've shot, but they've also gotten some timely screens, but they're shooting higher. If Dallas shoots higher in Game 3, that game ends 5-6-2. They didn't, but they won an OT. I think the Wyatt Johnston goal showed them what they have to do. I think it showed them where Thompson's susceptible. And I think if you're Dallas, you just can't allow the odd man breaks. I think if you're Ryan Suter, especially, he's had a decent enough series. You have to hit Jack Eichel. You have to lay the body. Jack Eichel is a physical beast in all three zones, and he's hard to get the puck off of. So if you're Dallas, you have to forecheck him to death. You have to forecheck Vegas to death. You have to hold offensive zone possession time, and you have to make good of your chances. Now for Vegas, you've done a great job. You've played to your structure. You've played to your system extremely well, and it's gotten you 2 wins. I won't say you've gotten lucky, because Vegas, they've capitalized on their opportunities. They know how to do that. It's less luck and more of we've been here and done that before. They know how to win. They're the defending Stanley Cup champions for a reason, and they've gotten better. So if you're Vegas, I don't see teams making too many adjustments other than that. And I really don't see the need for Vegas to make any adjustments at all, because what they're doing is working. So I think those are my keys to the series. I think Game 4 is another toss-up. I couldn't tell you who's going to win it. I'm rooting for Dallas, but like I said, I don't know who's going to win this game, but I think the winner of this game, this series, This is the most crucial game of the series for either team.
Yeah, it definitely seals it for whichever team comes away victorious here. Vegas obviously having home ice right now after taking both games in Dallas, would like to preserve that home ice advantage there. Going up 3-1 is a hard thing to come back from. I think there's very, very few teams in the NHL who have come back from a 3-1 deficit. So I mean, the Vegas locking that up would be tremendous. And for Dallas, they can't afford to go down 3-1. It just would not be beneficial for them, and it's absolutely terrible to even give that for them to even want to try to do that. And so there's only been 1, 2, 3. Let's see here. If I can find the scroll in here, I'll find it.
Last year?
Yeah, I think last year was 1.
Last year, the Panthers coming back from 3-1 down. And this series kind of reminds me a little bit of that in a way.
I mean, they're 32 times. It's only happened 32 times in a 3-1. A team's overcome a 3-1 deficit 32 times. So, I mean, that's not. You know how long hockey's been around? Like, that's all. It's not favorable at all.
You're digging a hole for yourself. You're digging a deeper hole.
Yeah, and it's just something that Dallas didn't expect to be doing. And I think you're right. They kind of have to forecheck them to death. At the same time, they can't fall into playing Vegas's game. Like you said, Vegas is extremely physical. It's extremely
That's
physical.
How they lost game 1.
Yeah, and you can't, as Dallas, you have to play your game. And that's true in just about any sport. But hockey, Dallas wants to be physical. They want you to get physical with them because that's their game. That's what they want to do. They want you to try to, get in there, get physical with them, get a lot of hits, try to play their game. Because at the end of the day, it's a war of attrition in that way, and they're going to outlast you. It's who they are. It's why that they are a consistent contender right now, regardless of where they're coming in the playoffs, right? When you think about teams that don't need to play exceptionally well throughout the regular season, as long as they get a playoff spot because they can turn it on at any point and make sure that they're healthy, Vegas is one of those teams. They don't necessarily need home ice to be deadly in the playoffs, and that's what Dallas's big problem is right now. Is that they happen to be going up against a team that, when the Stanley Cup playoffs start, when that puck drops, it's a different world for Vegas. They flip a switch, and they can, and they got healthy at the right time. And so Jack Eichel's out there, Mark Stone's out there, absolutely just playing out of their minds. Healthy, got fresh legs underneath them. It looks like this could be a scary situation for the Dallas Stars, who had a lot of Stanley Cup aspirations. And honestly, I think this was the worst matchup for them. They did not want to see the Vegas Golden Knights round 1. And I think that this is like a monkey on the back sort of thing for them right now, where if they can't get past Vegas, here we go again kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like Vegas just seems to, no matter where they're coming from, rule the West. And it's just, I honestly, the way they're playing Dallas right now, I think they can compete with anybody in the West, and that's
100%.
That's just the way it's going to be. And I don't think anyone really wants to see them. I think there are 6 other teams right now that are rooting for the Dallas Stars, saying, "Please God, come back from this and save us from having to possibly see the Golden Knights in the second round." So I think it's going to be an interesting series for the sake of what has been an entertaining series. It's one of the closer series that we've had so far. I want Dallas to win this game. I want it to go a little bit longer. I think this is probably one of the best matchups of the Stanley Cup playoffs we're going to get till probably the conference finals and maybe the Stanley, depending on how all that shakes out. But at the same time, I just don't know if Dallas, Vegas is going to be a madhouse tonight. It's going to be a rough one. If they pull this one out, I think that they fully swung momentum back in their favor going home for a game 6, possibly go up 3-2. Or game 5 going up 3-2, and then come back into Vegas for a game 6. That might be the way to do it, and at least get some momentum going in their favor. But they have to win tonight. I think this is a must-win for Dallas. I think Vegas, even if they lose this game, still feels okay. Not as good as they did, but they're still feeling like, hey, it's even ice again. We can go out there and we can get this done. But yeah, I'm with you. Dallas has to figure it out, and it's going to be tough. We're going to move on to the Kings Oilers series, and this is a series that has been high scoring for 3 out of the 4, and then the fourth one was a 1-0 win by Edmonton. They're up 3-1 on the Kings. We expected this. We didn't really see this matchup going much further than 5 if it did go 5 in the first place. I thought Edmonton would handle it pretty well, pretty easily, and they have pretty much so far. I mean, the only Kings win came in an OT and a 5-4 upset in Edmonton, which I kind of wasn't expecting. But Edmonton came right back and beat them 6-1, and then shut them out in Game 4. So I didn't think the Kings had enough to keep up with Edmonton, and I'm kind of feeling that way right now. I think that this is over in 5. And that's just the way it's going to be come Wednesday. This series is done.
I agree with you 100%. I think this series, I'm surprised the Kings didn't get swept. The Oilers just have their number. And I think the most shocking thing to me, the Oilers beat the Kings at their own game last game. They beat them 1-0. They shut them out. They played better defense than the LA Kings, and that's the Kings' bread and butter. Not only have they beaten them at their own game, they've toyed with them by forcing them into a gunfight that Edmonton knows LA cannot win. I think this was a nightmare matchup. I think LA was going to go out in round 1 if they played Edmonton or Dallas. I think they were the Western Conference Capitals in a way. They really didn't have a shot to begin with. They were going to get a bad matchup either way. They picked the matchup that has gotten the best of them the last 2 years, and third time will not be the charm. They're done in 5.
Yeah, I just don't see any way it goes on. Like I said, they're lucky they got to the 5th game. I had them out in 4. I thought this was going to be a sweep. Edmonton just had too much firepower. Stuart Skinner was playing too well in the crease. It just didn't make sense that the Kings would be able to be there. They didn't look all that great down the stretch. And yet here they are. They managed to steal a game in OT, but I mean, I think that was more fluky than anything. But yeah, the Kings are done. So let's go ahead and move on to the Canucks and the Predators. And this series has actually been significantly more competitive than the 3-1 Canucks series lead would lead you to believe. Realistically, this series should be 2-2 if it wasn't for a Preds collapse in the third period in Game 4, where they allowed 2 goals and then gave up the third goal in OT to essentially lose that game. They at home nonetheless in Nashville. So you think about this could easily be a 2-2 series, which we thought this was going to be a tight series. We thought Nashville could have a chance to upset the Canucks, and everything looked like it was possible until they essentially just crumbled in the third period of Game 4 and allowed the Canucks essentially to get away with one where they outshot them shots on goal by 9, 30-21. It just happened to be that Bozer got a hat trick, and that was the end of it. So yeah, they kind of collapsed there. But going back into they're going to head back to Vancouver. This is going to be a tough one for the Nashville to extend this series. I think they can do it. However, a 3-1 hole's hard. We just said how hard it is to overcome. I think they're done in at least 6, probably 5. I think the OT win for Vancouver, the hat trick there on enemy ice, that's a hell of a motivator, hell of a momentum swing in this series, especially when you think you're down and 1-2 goals going at the third, and it just looks like all hope's lost, and suddenly you come back. I think Vancouver closes this out in 5. It looked like it was going to be significantly more competitive than that, and yet here we are in Nashville. They were playing on borrowed time. They were playing with house money. We didn't think they would be here. They're technically supposed to be rebuilding. Yeah, they're supposed to be rebuilding. So I mean, any sort of playoff success is a win, I would say, for Nashville. Better luck next year, but coming into it, we thought you had a lot more to offer. Unfortunately, you had a playoff collapse in Game 4 that pretty much ended it for you. So I think you're on the same page I am, Ian.
Maybe a little bit, but I think I'm going to go Vancouver is going to win this series in 7. My reasoning for that is they'll figure out Artur Silovs. Silovs played his 10th game in the NHL in Game 4, and that was a game Vancouver had no business winning. Nashville outshot them 30-17. They outchanced them, and they held possession for most of the time. Like in the Vegas series, like in the Dallas-Vegas series, Vancouver is just more opportunistic, and they took advantage, starting with a great goal by Brock Besser in the closing seconds of the third period. If he doesn't bury that chance, we're talking about an even series. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think Nashville's going to steal 2. I think they're going to get one in Vancouver playing with desperation, and I think they're going to have momentum going back home. But then in Game 7, I think Vancouver is going to end it because they just have more high-end firepower that they can use, and Nashville just doesn't have that. they have Forsberg and Yossi, and if one of those guys goes down, then they're toast. I also think these next two games, really game 5 is going to come down to how well is UC Saros going to play. The Predators are going to ride or die by their goaltending. And I think the backbone of the team going forward is going to be UC Saros, like it has been pretty much since he was their starter when he first started for them in net. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk by any means. Like I said, I think it's not going to be a cakewalk for Vancouver. I think they'll win in 7. But they'll be tired out going into the next series, and that's where I think they fall.
It's possible. I mean, like I said, Nashville's kept it close. They've kept it competitive outside of that collapse, and which would have made this a 2-2 series instead of a 3-1 series, and we would have a totally different feel. I'm just kind of reading the writing on the wall. They didn't come into the playoffs very hot. They didn't, they're showing some weaknesses, some chinks in the armor right now that seem to be causing them more problems. But let's talk about a team that's actually showing some chinks in its most strongest point of its armor, and that is the Winnipeg Jets, who find themselves in a 3-1 hole against the Avalanche. And what we thought maybe the Avalanche, they had the weapons and things like that, but were they going to get enough goaltending, to help them out? And in game 1, you kind of saw how it was. It was a 7-6 win for Winnipeg. And since then, it has been all Colorado the entire time, 5-2, 6-2, 5-1. And Connor Hellebuck has posted save percentages 50 points lower than his regular season average of 0.9 or 92.1% save. He is down 50 points. That is right. He is at 87.1 on average right now in this playoff series. He is not stopping the goals very well at all. And, we thought the reason Winnipeg would have a shot here is because of Connor Hellebuck. But as we've always said, as he goes, so do the Jets. And he's going home and going to Cancun here probably after Tuesday's game, tomorrow's game against the Jets, or against the Avalanche. Connor Hellebuck and the Jets will be booking their vacation times and Airbnbs and things of that nature here soon, because they are cooked. And that's how I feel about it. That's how I felt about it the whole time, is that, the Jets were going to go as far as Connor Hellebuck, and this is about as far as they're going to go. I think that they're done in 5. The Avalanche have just shown exactly what we thought they were going to show when playoffs came around. Another team that just has the people that they can turn it on whenever they want. So, I mean, I don't see a way the Jets hang on here for another game. I think that, they even, I believe in game 4, Connor Hellebuck ended up taking a seat, and they put another goalie in there for a couple of shots.
Honestly, yeah, I agree with that. The Jets have disappointed me outside of game 1, and that showed a lot of cracks, I might add. They haven't looked like the Jets. They have not played to their identity, and they've just looked like kind of a disaster since game 2. So I agree with you. I think they're done in 5, and in the words of Charles Barkley, I think they're going to Galveston. Cancun's too good for them. Send them to Galveston with that dirty water. If you watched Inside the NBA the other day, you'd know. If not, look it up on YouTube. It's hilarious. But yeah, I think they're done. I agree with you. I think they're pretty much done.
I mean, to be fair, this is exactly how we kind of saw this going. If they got into a shootout, we didn't think the Jets had the firepower to keep up with the Avalanche. They only had 199 goals. I think they're one of the only playoff teams that had under 200 goals, they had under 200 goals against. My bad. My apologies. They had the lowest goal difference or goals against in the NHL. The next closest team was the Panthers, but they also were the 4th lowest goals for team at like 256. I think it was 259. So they were the 4th lowest scoring team in the playoffs. Imagine that. You're in the bottom 25%, and you're a 2 seed in the Central Division. Like, that right there tells you everything that you need to know about the Jets. That this is 100% defense, goaltending, prevent them from scoring on us, and we can outscore our issues. And they can't, because their goaltending has been absolutely atrocious. Their defense has been absolutely atrocious against a team that has realistically, during the regular season, we kind of felt was underperforming with, how it should be. And if you look at it, I mean, They only allowed 254 goals a game, which is bad. I think it's one of the highest goals against in the playoffs right now for a playoff team at 254. I don't think there's another team realistically close to that outside the Maple Leafs 263 and the Lightning 268. So they're right there as well as being like bad bottom quarter of the league in goals against. But here's the thing: they scored 304, so they can put points on the board all day long, and that's kind of what we're seeing here in this series, where they have consistently battered Hellebuck and the Jets.
Yeah, I think you summed it up right there. I really can't add on to that because the Avalanche have they've played to their strengths. They said, okay, we're going to be offense, and this series, they forced it into offense. So props to you guys, Colorado. You proved me wrong. I didn't think you were going to be able to crack Hellebuck. You've made him look like a below average goalie. And to that, hats off to you.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to move out east now. We're going to talk about a series that I think has been significantly more competitive than the 3-1 series that it actually looks at right now, which is the Islanders and the Canes. Okay, so the Islanders and the Canes, what people don't realize here is that the Canes escaped Game 2 on a 4-goal third period, where they went into the third period down 3-1 and then absolutely took advantage of an Islanders collapse and won 5-3. This series has been significantly competitive. No game has been decided by more than 2 goals. The Islanders won in OT in Game 4 on Saturday, 3-2, and they are back in Carolina down 3-1. And honestly, Carolina has not looked unbeatable in this series. I mean, they controlled Game 1 pretty much from the puck drop. Game 2, they were literally on death's door with the Islanders. Game 3 is a 3-2 series, and they go up 3-0. They lose Game 4 in New York in overtime to the Islanders. And now you look at, they're coming into Game 5. Do the Islanders have something here to really bring it back to New York and possibly send this to a Game 7? I mean, how they looked in Game 2 outside of the third period makes me want to say yes, but that third period, just like I said, for some of the teams in the West, that third period, the Predators was the other team I was talking about, where they just kind of collapsed in the third period. Same here. I got faith in you a little bit, but at the same time, you had a 4-goal third go against you. You can't have that. So I don't know how I feel about Game 5. I feel it could go either way. The Canes look beatable. The Islanders look like they can give them a run here, but I think the Canes still close it out in 5. What do you think, man?
I agree with you. I think the Islanders are done. I think they were lucky to get Game 4, but going back to Carolina, they haven't won there yet. Game 2 is a game is the kind of game that breaks a team. It breaks their spirit. Blowing a 3-0 lead like that's not a loss you recover from in the playoffs. Credit to the Islanders, they got one on home ice, but you're going back to Carolina. They're better than you at what you do best, and they have the firepower to make your life miserable. I think the props to the Islanders for getting to the playoffs in the first place. They're toast. Carolina in 5. I'm going to predict the final score of 2-0 Carolina.
Man, they don't even get on the board. I mean, but that sticks with it. This has been a tight series the whole time. Like I said, no team's won by more than 2 goals. And, I would not be surprised at all if it's a 2-goal game that decides, whether we see a Game 6 or it ends in 5. But yeah, Carolina, like I said, I think that they're on upset alert going on in the playoffs regardless, because they showed some chinks in the armor in this series regardless of how it ends for them, whether it's 5 or 6 or 7. They've shown that they can be beat. And personally, in my opinion, by a lesser opponent in the Islanders. I mean, we expected the Islanders, the Capitals, who we'll talk about in a second, and just get swept. I think the only team that we thought wouldn't get swept that was kind of in that bottom part there was maybe the Maple Leafs, or the Lightning probably wouldn't get swept because of how they looked.
Almost happened.
And that almost happened as well. But let's talk about the Capitals real quick and how Ovechkin did not even score a point in this series that saw his Washington Capitals get absolutely swept out of the playoffs. Now, I mean, they were 1-4, 3-4, 3-1, 4-2, but there was no. The Capitals had no chance. I don't think anyone who watched hockey thought they had a chance.
No.
I mean, I think that they wanted to believe they could steal a game from the Rangers, but you're talking about a team that absolutely the entire year looked unbeatable. And absolutely, that's exactly what they are. I mean, the Rangers essentially came into this series where, people thought, oh, President's Trophy, here we go again. Maybe the Capitals can be that spunky, wild card. The Rangers never even gave them an opportunity. Didn't even let it become an idea that could happen, and closed them out in 4 games. I think that this is one that everyone knew would be a sweep, or should be a sweep, and the Rangers absolutely fucking delivered.
100%. They did what we thought they would do. They came in, they kicked butt, they took names, took care of business. Capitals we knew didn't have a chance, and the Rangers all but confirmed it. Ovechkin was terrible. Ovi looked old. He looked lost at times, and I think we're seeing his decline. He had to carry the Capitals there, but you can't ask, how old is he now? 36?
He's getting up there.
He's up there in age. Like, his hair's white. He's not young.
He's 38.
He's 38 years old. I even undershot that. You can't ask a 38-year-old to carry you in the playoffs. I'm sorry. He's not prime Ovechkin anymore. That was your only shot, and you screwed it up. It's not even that you... let me rephrase that. They didn't even screw it up. They had no business being in the playoffs in the first place, and the New York Rangers treated us looked like trophy winners, and they looked dominant in that series. I don't think anything else needs to be said. Igor was fantastic. Everything was clicking, and the Rangers treated the Capitals like an inferior team, which is what they were all season. Props to the Rangers for taking care of business. Now go get it done in round 2.
Absolutely, and this might be this could be the team that finally breaks the President's Trophy curse. This could be the team. I mean, I may have just Rangers fans. I'm sorry if I knock on wood, throw some salt over your shoulder, but
no, I'm fine with them losing the cup.
But I mean, they've looked dominant at every turn.
Oh,
there has never been a question. Like, we kept waiting for, when's it going to happen? When are they going to find that chink in the armor? When's someone going to expose them? It's not happening. They don't look exposable because there's nothing to expose. They're just that good. Unlike the team we're about to talk about, which is my Boston Bruins, who honestly, if it wasn't for Jeremy Swayman, would 110% be on the opposite side in this series of a 3-1. Because the Toronto Maple Leafs have thrown everything at the goal. They are consistently throwing it through the crease, putting it out front, putting it out top, getting sticks on it, everything they possibly can. And Swayman has made ESPN top 10 saves consistently in all these games. And the only game Boston lost was a typical Boston L, where they fell apart and gave up essentially a 2-1 lead out of the first and gave up a goal in the second and the third to lose 3-2 with Linus Ullmark in the net. And sure enough, Swayman comes out in game 3, dominates. Swayman comes, and then they start Swayman in game 4, which is what the question was: are they going to continue to do this goalie rotation every other game? And Montgomery came out after game 4, and they're asking, like, hey, why did you start Swayman? And he goes, well, the plan was to start each goalie and see which one had the hot hand. It's Jeremy. Jeremy's got the hot hand, so we're going to run with him. And he should have been ran with from the get-go, because he has played these guys 7 times, I think it is now, and has not lost. Like, nope. If you're going off the statistics, Jeremy Swayman is the guy you should have started from the get-go anyway, because that's the guy who gives you the best chance to beat these guys. And he's played out of his mind, regardless of how, they haven't had, Austin Matthews didn't finish the game, or finish game 4.
Should have started him from the get-go last year.
Nylander hasn't been out there. One of them where he showed up for game 4, but it didn't matter because Austin Matthews left game 4. So they've just been cycling in their stars. And I think this is just another Toronto Maple Leafs playoff series, man, where we're like, well, hey, they're there and they're not. And Austin Matthews is the top goal scorer in the league, and he's out first round of the playoffs. And all this, and it just does not matter. I mean, Nylander made some differences for them, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter. Like nothing they did mattered. I mean, Bertuzzi did a lot, tried to do a lot of things for him, and the puck's just not falling their way. I was worried coming into this, and I'm still worried about the Boston going further, or the Bruins going further in this playoffs because.
Oh, they won't. They'll lose in the next round of Florida, but
they're back checking more than they're forechecking. They've controlled the puck in the offensive zone quite a bit, but it hasn't led to shots on goal. And they're getting outshot in just about every game this series. They're getting, it's a heavy hitting series. I think I think they set a record for amount of hits in a game in the playoffs in one of these games. Like they've just been going at it. But Toronto has looked at points to be the more offensively efficient team, and they just happen to be losing on just unfortunate
plays.
Yeah, unfortunate puck rolls, essentially the way the puck bounces. And
unfortunately, a more opportunistic team.
Yeah, and Boston, when you give them an opportunity, they capitalize. And that's the big difference here. They just happen to go up against a team that's got a really good penalty kill. And Toronto does not have a good penalty, they're not a good power play. And their penalty kill is terrible. I mean, their special teams in general is dog shit.
It's atrocious. Oh my gosh, it's bad.
There is no reason.
I'd blame the coach.
It has to be
at that point, it has to be Guy Boucher, their special teams coach. That you have no excuse when you have Austin Matthews, the best goal scorer in the world, a bona fide number one power play quarterback in Morgan Riley. I'm not even going to throw Mitch Marner in there because Mitch Marner's been a ghost in these playoffs, and that's a whole nother rant I can have for another day. If we wanted to do a whole video on most disappointing playoff players in these playoffs, I can list you about 4 or 5, and Marner clears that list. But rant aside, Toronto just classic Toronto.
Yep.
Find a way to lose. They're done.
You just listed off amazing players: Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, Nylander.
Mitch Marner's gone this offseason.
Morgan Riley, all these guys. That 4 right there on a power play line should score consistently. Like they should be putting pucks on the goal all the time, and yet a lot of the time they're not able to control the puck going into the zone. They're not even getting into the zone. They get turned back at center ice more times than I have seen a power play get turned back at center ice ever. And it's like they forget how to move the puck, and I don't understand it. Like there's more space out there, and you seem to be less able to move the puck than when there's less space out there. It's like you prefer, like if you could have like an extra guy on the other team, it would make you move the puck better or something. I don't understand it. And yet here we are, Leafs again, down 3-1 to the Boston Bruins, going to go home to Toronto. And the questions are going to abound in Toronto. What does it fucking take to get out of the first round or to have a good deep run in the playoffs? Because you got Bertuzzi, you got all these guys. And for some odd reason, your power play's ass, your penalty kills ass, and you're turning the puck over in unfortunate situations. And it kind of reminds me of like Edmonton for a long, you have all this offensive power, you have all this stuff. Your goalkeeping's kind of, hit or miss, but you get the right coach in the situation and suddenly everything's better. And I feel like that's where it is with Toronto. I feel like it's a bench problem, and it's going to continue to be a bench problem until they figure out someone who has the right mentality and coaching style to get these guys to do what they're doing and to get them on the same page. But yeah, I think this one's over in 5 as well. I think Boston, going back to Boston, closes this out. I don't see a way, especially now that they've decided to stick with Swayman in the net. This is Boston's series, but yeah, we'll move on to the series that you were just talking about, and that's the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers, the Battle of Florida. And this series has battle. It really hasn't been. It's honestly right now in the second period of Game 5, Florida's up 2-1. It is looking like the Panthers are going to close out the Lightning tonight, and that is surprising. Where we had the NHL points leader in Kucherov. And we were pretty sure that he was going to be enough to make this a series. And basically all we saw was the Tampa Bay Lightning deserved to be a wild card. Now, granted, I think that, Florida probably wasn't a great matchup for them. They would have preferred Boston. I think if they get Boston, they see the second round where they meet the Florida Panthers anyway. and maybe this is the result that, they're a second round exit instead of a first round exit. But this has got, it's kind of reminds me of the Dallas series, the Dallas Knights series. Just not the matchup you wanted. I think Boston looked at it, and that's why I think Boston coasted at the end of the year. They were like, they wanted to play the Leafs. They knew they could beat the Leafs. They knew that would get them into the second round, and they liked that idea better. I think this Florida matchup, Boston matchup is going to be interesting because there's going to be a lot of, animosity there. There's going to be a lot of like, we want to get back at you for that, kind of some payback going on there. And that's a series I want to see. But before we get too far past the Lightning and the Panthers here, I think the Panthers just got it, man. It looks like they have some unfinished business as well. I think that, that Stanley Cup loss to the Knights left the bitter taste in their mouth after the run they had. And if you look at the run they're having right now, it is they are on a mission this year to show that last year was no fluke. They're here to stay, and they're coming back for their Stanley Cup trophy.
I agree 100%. Like the mother team, I think Tampa was lucky to get one in Tampa Bay, but they got it. So credit to them, but they're just out of gas. They're going to fight hard, and they're going to try to they're going to try to pull it out. It's near impossible to come back from down 3-0. It's only happened twice in my lifetime. The 2010 Flyers and the 2014 LA Kings. But those teams, this Tampa team is old. They don't have it anymore. They don't have the depth anymore to compete with the Florida Panthers. They don't have the structure to compete with the Florida Panthers. I think this series ends tonight, and I think Florida, after this series win and after a series win against Boston, is well on their way to the Eastern Conference Finals. Sorry for your Bruins, Joe. I just don't see anybody in the Atlantic that can beat them.
I mean, personally, I feel the same way. It's just, like I said, the way they have the Bruins have been playing with fire with the Maple Leafs the entire series. There is no reason that this shouldn't be a 2-2 series or a 3-1 series in the Leafs' favor for as many times and high danger opportunities the Leafs have had and just haven't converted. Like I said, the puck's just not falling the Leafs' way. And maybe Swayman's just that good, but we have the Bruins' defense and the play in their defensive zone has been at times borderline atrocious. They have turned the puck over in the defensive zone. They have made plays in the defensive zone that make you scratch your head, and yet Jeremy Swayman has held on there. I'm with you. I think the Florida Panthers, their first real test is going to come in the form of the New York Rangers in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think that series goes 7. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We're getting too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. That'd be a heck of a series, though. Bob versus Shesterkin.
Oh man, be crazy. But yeah, I think that this series went a little differently than we thought it would. I didn't think it was going to be a 3-1 series. 4 games in. Possibly looking at only 5 games going total. And at the end of the day, I just you're right. The Lightning, they seem to be a team that was missing some key pieces, and
interference.
It's just done, man. So. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to break down the second round. We'll be giving you all that insight and more as it comes. Until then, this has been The Crease. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all of our social media platforms. Check out all the other House Call offerings and go to our website, TheHouseCall.com. It'll be down in the description. You can see it behind me right here. I'll move my head a little bit. That's the website right there. Go to that website. We got our blogs there. We got our affiliate links there. All that and more. Check it out. Be sure to share the channel. Help us grow this channel. And we'll see you next time here on The Crease.